Hey everybody, I'm live. It's John O'Brien. Surprise, it is late. I'm in New York City on travel. Had to think about this. I've got meetings first thing in the morning with JP Morgan Chase and the New York Bankers Association and a group of CEOs. And I just got back from San Francisco, DC, and New York, so I got back from where I just came back to. So one of the things about success is going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. Hey, everybody signing on, even though I know it's late, you're signing on with no notice. Hey, Mary from Alaska, I miss you guys there. Newt, Latavia, hello. This is water, by the way, everybody. Hussein Bazi. Zay, Cam, Cad, I finally caught you live. Yeah, and as you know, I'm responding. You know it's live. Teresa, hello from Los Angeles. Alexandra Franks, not that late in LA. It's midnight here on the West Coast and East Coast. Audrey, hello. David Brown, Karen Wiggins signing in. A bunch of other people just signed at the same time. Mary Love from Chicago, hello. Lawrence Asu from Cameroon. 71% of my DNA is from Cameroon, so hello, we're related. Javis, what's up, John? Thanks for the inspiration. Chantel, hello. Vincent Summerlin, Chantel's from South Africa. You have offices there. Damian Walker from Arkansas. Lamont Stewart. Okay, Harold Brooks. Okay, let me get into this. So, this is not what the video is about, but you need to know you need to take no for vitamins in your life. The success is going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm, and that only in the dictionary does the word success come before the word work because it's alphabetical. Every place else, success is just hard. It's just dang on hard. In fact, whatever you love, it will drive you crazy. Whether it's a relationship, or whether it's your job, or whether it's a business, or an idea, a passion you have. I was talking to somebody downstairs who wants to open a business in hair. And I just told them, look, you're going to get player hated even from your family. They will do it out of love. They don't even know any better because we pass down bad habits from generation to generation out of love. Out of love, we pass down bad habits from generation to generation. Out of love, we diss people and discourage them and because we don't know any better oftentimes. And so people mean well but can't often act well. And they will come at you with the glass is half empty on their life versus the glass being half full, because that's, they're wrapped in their pain and they don't know any better. But that doesn't mean you need to wallow there too. Any glass is half empty is also half full. I'll repeat, any glass is half empty is also half full. Whenever you're doing tomorrow, I want you to remember this part of the video. Whatever you see a glass is half empty, it's also half full. It simply depends on how you are viewing that glass. I'm going to repeat that. Whenever you see a glass is half empty, it's also half full. It depends how you are viewing that glass. And if somebody says that glass is half empty, run! They are a negative person. They will drive you crazy and make your life miserable. So run. You need to have people around you who see the positive in everything, that the glass is half full. They see their blessings. They understand that whatever they're dealing with are high-class problems. They're first-world problems. Even in South Africa, where I have offices, you know that things could be much worse. You could be in the Sudan or other part, Haiti, where you don't even have running water and your government doesn't even listen to you. And you have no chance for your own aspiration yet, but hopefully freedom and democracy and opportunity is coming there too. Okay, so John O'Brien, founder, chairman, CEO of Operation Hope, America's first and only nonprofit financial services network for the poor, the struggling class, the working class, the teetering class, folks with too much month at the end of their money, and author of a few best-selling books. Last one is How the Poor Get Capitalism. Let's get into this. Half of success is ... What is it? Money? Nope. In fact, you can be a rich fool. And wealth has nothing to do with money. Poverty and wealth has nothing to do with money, by the way. I'll do a whole video on that if you want me to. You tell me to do a video on poverty and wealth because it has nothing to do with money. I'll do that at your request. But it has nothing to do with money. So half of success is what? It's relationships and marketing. So I'm going to do a video on relationships later, relationship capital. It's also going to be in my new book, The Memo. But let me deal with marketing, because you may think just because you're the smartest person in the room that's good enough. You may think because you're brilliant and you got degrees that's good enough. You may think that because you're the smartest person on your job that's good enough. It is not good enough. It is what you need to get in the door and to make sure no one can say you're incompetent. But it is not good enough. Let me tell you a few examples of people for whom marketing made all the difference in the world. And I don't mean marketing like it's in PR or some surfacey stuff. I mean really being thoughtful about your brand and thoughtful about other people and how they're going to receive your brand. Here's how I live my life. I try to live my life. Talk without being offensive. Listen without being defensive. And always leave even your adversary with their dignity. Because if you don't, they'll spend the rest of your life trying to make you miserable. I'll repeat, talk without being offensive. Listen without being defensive. And always leave even your adversary with their dignity, because if you don't, they'll spend the rest of their life trying to make you miserable. That doesn't always work. Sometimes I fail, but that's the way I try to start every interaction. And if you try to start life in that way, it'll end up positive most of the time, at least for you. You'll have good karma in your life. But that's not marketing. Let me give you some practical examples from marketing. Steve Jobs. Who's the founder of Apple? Come on, tell me. I just gave it to you, but it's a rhetorical question. Who's the founder of Apple? Help me out here. Come on. I'll wait. I'm looking at the comments. Colette, Cheryl, hey, Drake, Jackson. I have a new drug, John O'Brien. I'm high. I'm high now. I love it. Stephen Caldwell, hey brother, from Greenville, South Carolina. Nobody wants to stay. Okay, Rakita, my cousin, says Steve Jobs. Karen Wiggins says Steve Jobs. Carmen, she says Steve Jobs. Okay, Latasha says Steve Jobs. It's Steve Jobs. Hey, Najee Ali, Steve Jobs, my brother from LA. Dorcas says Steve Jobs. No, there are two founders of Apple, Steve Jobs and Wozniak. In fact, Wozniak, Steve Jobs was a mediocre, average engineer and technician and programmer. It was actually Wozniak who was the brain, the genius behind the technology, who actually created the first Macintosh and created all the back end. But Wozniak just wanted to sit in front of his computer. Steve Jobs understood people. He understood markets, marketing, finance. He understood the business case. He understood he understood the sexiness of design. Wozniak was just concerned about making this thing the best thing in the world. Well, and Wozniak didn't market himself. But Steve Jobs was such a brilliant marketer that even you now, and you're still writing Steve Jobs, Teresa Kay, Ron Scott, they are still writing Steve Jobs. You still don't get that there were two founders of Apple. And we're not talking about the past. Wozniak is still very much alive today. Go to his Twitter feed, go to his Facebook account, go to his Instagram account, follow Wozniak. He is the other founder, the equal founder of Apple. But you only know Steve Jobs because Steve Jobs was a brilliant marketer. Now, I'm taking nothing away from Steve Jobs, but that's the brilliance of marketing. Steve Jobs was a brilliant marketer. You want to know what these are? They're prayer beads from Saudi Arabia, by the way. A brilliant marketer. Now, Martin Luther King Jr., great moral leader, great civil rights leader. But guess what? There were a bunch of great civil rights leaders in the 60s. And in the 50s, in fact, the March on Washington was not created by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., doing no discredit to Dr. King, who I love and admire. And my mentor, Andrew Young, was his strategist in the civil rights movement. So I get to hear all about Dr. King secondhand from Andrew Young. So Dr. King made the March on Washington, but do you know there were 2.5 hours of other people giving speeches on that day on the Mall in Washington? And do you know that 20 years before that, there was also the guy who organized that march, A. Philip Randolph, Google search that name, the Pullman Porters Association is what he ran. 20 years before that, he had been threatening every president to do a march on Washington, and the presidents since World War II said, no, don't march, what do you want? And he actually desegregated the military. A. Philip Randolph desegregated the American military, which is where civil rights really began, but he gets no credit for it because he wasn't a great marketer. My Janae Roscoe, who works for me, my government relations chief, worked for A. Philip Randolph and the Pullman Porters, in his association before she came to work at the White House and came to work for me. But do research on this guy. But it was Dr. King's charisma, his understanding of people. You know, Dr. King would never march after 2 o'clock in any of these southern cities. Why? Because he needed the media, who back then, there were no social media back then, nothing was digital. It was all on a can. They film, they record film, put it on a can, in a film can, and the reporters had to get on a plane with the film to New York in time for what? 5 o'clock news. Because there was no 24-hour news then. It was news at 5, 6, and 11. Okay, so Dr. King was not the only civil rights leader. He was the most brilliant civil rights leader, and he had the whole package. And by the way, all the other black leaders were talking to black people. Dr. King was the only one talking to white people about black people. And by the way, here's something about managing your brand. Why do I tell you don't be angry for a living? Why do I always tell you, if you're a minority, don't get angry, get even. Don't throw a brick, throw your wallet, and hit them with your American Express black card and knock them out. Step over mess and not in it. Why do I tell you that? I'm telling you, I'm also helping you to manage your brand. If you're a minority in any country, whether it's South Africa or whether it's someplace in South America, whether it's in someplace in Europe, whether you're in the United States of America, if you're a minority, you don't have the military on your side, you don't have the force of the government on your side, you cannot overtake anything by force. There's never been a movement, a radical movement in the world, in modern history, in all of history, that survived with radicals trying to take over the majority government. It's never happened. ISIS will fail, by the way. That's a whole other thing, but they will fail because this is not only has it never happened, they're also on the wrong side of history and the wrong side of God. But it just also doesn't make any sense. The only way you win is with moral authority. You got to be better than your adversary. You got to rise above the crap, over mess, not in it. You got to have a brand that compels people, inspires people to follow you because you can't force them to change. See, that's the magic of Dr. King. He had the whole package. And so even though there were hundreds of civil rights leaders during his day, great civil rights leaders, those who ran the NAACP, arguably did maybe more work than SCLC. The NAACP Legal Defense Fund doesn't get the credit that they deserve. Thurgood Marshall doesn't get the credit he deserves. Dr. Dorothy Height does not get the credit that she deserves. By the way, she, who was a mentor of me, she told me, she counseled 12 U.S. presidents. She said, "John, I love you because you're a dreamer with a shovel in your hands. I love you because you're a dreamer with a shovel in your hands." I got a chance to hang out with her before she passed. But she was the reason Dr. King even gave the speech on the Mall in Washington, because he was this youngster that people resented, other civil rights leaders resented, and they didn't want him to speak on the Mall. And so after 2.5 hours, they said, "Look, Dr. King, there's been enough speechifying here today. Why don't we catch you next time? People are tired." And he was so dignified. He was like, "Cool." The Dr. Height says, no. The young people listen to Dr. King. Just give him 8 minutes. What could he possibly do in 8 minutes? See, and he had given that speech 100 times. Why do you know that? Because the singer, whose name escaping me at the moment, but I'm sure you'll tell me who she is, Mahalia Jackson, said, watch off screen when you watch the I Have a Dream speech. He says, "Tell him about the dream, Martin," because she had heard the speech before, see? And she was waiting for him to riff, to rap, really, to throw some hip hop in it and go off script. And that's when he started talking off script, and that's when we all got enthralled. And that's the piece everybody replays all the time. He was a great marketer. Nelson Mandela went into prison at age 47, stayed there 27 years at age 47. So if you're 30 years old saying, "I've not achieved anything with my life yet," understand Moses didn't do anything until he was 80. Didn't know what he was doing until he was 80. And that Nelson Mandela went to prison at age 47. He was an attorney. He was not an extraordinary one. Gandhi was too, by the way. But found their mojo late in their life, but they never gave up. Never, ever gave up. And they had a purpose project for their life. They knew what they were about. And it was something larger and more important than themselves. You can blame a lot of things on me. You can say I'm a schmuck, a jerk, but you can't tell me I'm not on point on my mission. And that forgives a lot of sins, particularly with him. So coming back to the story, so Nelson Mandela went to prison at age 47. He could have gone there and been angry. He could have gone there and been just another prisoner. But he decided to turn that to a place of learning, to make his prison, like Malcolm X did, a place of his education, versus not a place of his domination or his detriment. To his detriment, he made it a place of his aspiration. He turned it into what his prison guards called Nelson Mandela University. Mandela University. The prison guards learned more from him and got more from him than they were able to take from him, because he decided that they weren't going to control his life, that this was going to be a positive experience. And he spent 27 years in that place, and he changed it. It didn't change him. He did it with love. And when he left prison, they were crying. People were crying when he left and didn't want him to leave. And he left there, of course, to become president. But he didn't do anything really he stayed there 27 years. Didn't do anything from age really late 60s, 27, so 50. He was 70 years old. So the things we know of that Mandela did to change the world between 70 and 85. What can you do before the age of 70? All right? I mean, you sitting there, you're 20 years old, 30 years old, I'm give up. Give up. You just started, right? So never give up. Those are my other videos. But you got to understand your brand. You got to understand marketing. You got to understand that nothing good comes easy. That only in the dictionary does the word success come before the word work, because it's alphabetical. Over the rounded to it, you're going to have to get through it. Who else? So I talked about Mandela. Gandhi was a brilliant marketer. Nelson Mandela was a great. By the way, there are many people who wanted to assassinate Nelson Mandela in the ANC, the African National Congress, but they couldn't do it because Mandela was such a great fundraiser for the entire movement. He was the brand. He was the person in the world that people were inspired by, loved him, admired him, respected him. So that to kill him was to kill the golden goose. So even those who wished him evil could not do him in without shooting themselves in the foot. Now that's a brand. He stepped over mess, not in it, and just didn't let much stuff and little crap bother him. Don't let little stuff bother you. Stop rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic in your life. I'm going to repeat it. Stop rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic of your life. Step over mess and not in it. And understand that nothing good comes easy, and you're not going to get what you want. And if success was easy, you're not going to get what you want easily. And if success was easy, everybody would be doing it. Okay, you like that. Okay, good. Gandhi was a brilliant marketer. His children, actually, it is rumored, hated him because I guess he didn't spend a lot of time at home. Dr. King's kids also had challenges with the fact they didn't see their father a lot. Andrew Young's kids, I won't tell their business, but they would love to have spent more time with him. You cannot be a leader in this world without having something sacrificed, but that doesn't mean that the good will not be worth it all. But you got to understand that you got to put yourself on the line, and that nothing comes without legitimate suffering. And you got to, again, manage your brand, and it's tied to your purpose. So Henry Ford, we know Henry Ford created the automobile, Ford Motor Company. I'm honored to know his great-grandson, Henry Ford III, and be partnering with him on a motorsports academy. But we would say, okay, Henry Ford created the automobile. Nope, not true. You had Dodge, you had Chrysler. These were people. Mr. Dodge, Mr. Chrysler, right? Between 1895 and like 1910, you had 100 automobile manufacturers. Boom! In fact, in 1905, I think you had literally 100 manufacturers fighting for market share, trying to get a customer in this new automobile. But one of them had the brilliance of marketing, and that was Henry Ford. That's the one you remember. And Henry Ford was smart enough to pay his workers enough, the bottom automobiles that they were making, and everybody else thought he was crazy, by the way, and voila, he created a middle class. Now, he was not, admired by a lot of people. People thought he was a mean person. He had some rumor of being anti-Semitic. Some of that's true, some of that's rumor. But he, in fact, Steve Jobs was not necessarily a man of charm, I'm told. You read his book, you just like, but he changed the world, right? So there is no perfect, but you got to manage your brand. Manage your brand. You're not as good as your compliments. You're not as bad as your criticism. You are who you are, and be comfortable in your own skin. Manage your brand and keep it positive. Okay, I told you about Henry Ford. I told you about, I think you're starting to get it, right? I mean, and so why am I telling my friends at Black Lives Matter, as an example, to manage your brand? Because it's not about the purpose. What they're doing is noble. Of course, police brutality is wrong. Of course, those who do it should be fired and or prosecuted just like a criminal, because they are criminals. And I mean police officers who are corrupt. Of course, their topic is the right topic, but if you don't know, if you don't manage your brand, and you don't have your issue doesn't have a beginning, a middle, and an end. If your problem does not have a beginning, a middle, and an end, you don't leave your adversary with their dignity. If your adversary can't win too, if you're just saying that all police officers are the devil, you're saying that all, in this example, white people are the devil, then that creates an environment where people who have goodwill, who might actually like your cause if you're African American, as I am, and who might rally behind your cause, actually can get co-opted by a person running for office who's actually preying on the fact that no one's speaking for you, middle-class white America, poor white America. No one's fighting for you. No, you don't have a voice, and you're being told by somebody you don't even know they hate you. If you're a police officer in some little town trying to provide public safety, and you know you're an honest person, you're not part of the person abusing somebody, you're being told by somebody else that they don't respect you, hate you. Come follow me with this movement of hate. And by the way, that happened in 1935 with a guy named Hitler. It happened with Mussolini. It's happened all through the course of history of people who take frustration, economic fear, and cratering jobs and turn it into a negative message to grab people by their fear and by their neck, their emotional neck, and get them to follow them down off of this cliff. But you don't have to help them. See, Dr. King always left his adversary with a way out. And that's a whole other video for another time. You got to leave your adversary with a way out. You got to let them win too. If you win and they lose, we've lost. If you win and your adversary has lost, then you have ultimately lost because they're not going to let you have any peace. You've got to find a way for the other side to even though they screwed up. Look, in South Africa, you had this horrible apartheid thing. What did Nelson Mandela do? He made his jailer his vice president. Think about it. He made de Klerk, the guy who was the president of the country, who put him in jail, who oppresses people, he made him his vice president because he knew he had to bridge himself back to the other side of the country. He couldn't just go and represent black people. He had to become the president of everybody. When Mandela, I'm not boring you guys, am I? I'm almost done with this because I'm starting to bore myself. Am I boring you? No, Dorcas says, tell it. No, okay, you like that. All right. Teresa K. So it has to be win-win-win. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Okay, you like what I'm saying, but I'm just going to keep it quick because you know you never want to be the old guy in the club. My mother, Juanita Smith, says you don't want to be the old guy in the club. So before you kick me out, I'm going to leave. And by the way, some people said they love the jacket. This is my jacket I travel with. This is a jacket from Koenigsegg, auto racing company in Sweden. If you like the jacket, you can Google search them and get one for yourself. So I got it when I went and toured there. So Mandela made his jailer his vice president to bridge himself back to the rest of the country so he could put the country back together. President Abraham Lincoln did the same thing after the Civil War, made a Southern segregationist his vice president to bridge back to the South after the Civil War. In Rwanda, you had the Gacaca courts, which were designed to let people who killed and maimed to come and admit their transgressions, because forgiveness is the most powerful thing in the world other than love. And he allowed the courts allowed them to come and admit they were screw-ups, and they screwed up, asked for forgiveness of the country, and to return back into society, because they realized that Rwanda was such a small place that they had to find a way to come together and get common ground. So look, I hope I've given you enough examples here of practical examples of how you got to manage your brand and lead even your adversary with their dignity. But also you got to, so that's one reason. The other reason is if you're just known as protesters, if you're just known as the pissed off people, the protest people, the angry people, the frustrated people, no one's going to invest in you. No one's going to invest in your business. No one's going to invest, no one's going to hire you. No one's going to want to, when you think about, this is going to sound discriminatory, I apologize. You think about Indian people, from India. What do you think about? You often think about engineers. You think about Chinese people. This is discriminatory. I'm discriminating. Whenever you generalize, you discriminate. I apologize, but it actually is a practical point here. You think about Chinese. What do you think about? You tend to think about, well, those are some smart people. They're very technical. By the way, 30 years ago, that was not the way people thought about Chinese. China was the dustpan of the world, but they have managed their brand and backed it up with substance, and look at them now, they're the second largest economy in the world. I see some notes here. Yes, Suzanne said, yes, engineers. Carmen says, the quiet voice is the one that demands your attention. People often tune out loud noise. Exactly. They tune out loud noise. You cannot start a movement on the 6 o'clock news. It doesn't work that way. Serious people don't get their news on the 11 o'clock news, right? Nor do they negotiate in public. Drake. What's another generalization? There's a group of people, I won't name them, but they're known as financiers. It's not true. I mean, it's not just what they do, but they're known as financiers. And I don't want to name them because it's an unfair characterization. But they created financial services, by the way. But I mean, you can go on. But see, what is the black brand? What's the Latino brand? The Latino brand, hard workers, family. What's the African American brand? See, this is what I'm talking about. What are young African Americans? When you think about young African Americans, what comes in your mind? If it is not a hardworking, smart, intelligent, thoughtful, industrious person who, when you invest in them, you get a return, and who has a purpose in their life, and who is an extraordinarily smart individual, if that's not your brand in the world, then you've got some problems with your brand management. And if your goal in your life is working at the counter clerk at the Burger King at the airport, again, a newsflash for you, that job is going away. Go look at some other posts that I have on this page. You will see that job, because I went to one of those places, and I was given rude service. I'm like, if you don't like this job, why do you work here? Just like, go away. Like, if you don't like people, go work behind a computer or something. In fact, maybe that would actually make more money because you need computer skills. But if you don't like people, why are you doing a customer service job? But those jobs will be replaced by computers. You heard it here first. A customer service computer will replace 80% of all folks behind a counter at a fast food restaurant. So you've got to find your brand. You've got to find your rhythm. You've got to find your way. You're going to have to get you a skill, and you're going to have to understand the way you have to market yourself. Get you a LinkedIn account. Get you a Facebook account or something other than talking to your friends. Get you a business Facebook account. Get you a business Instagram account. Make sure you're speaking with one voice about who you are. If you are a hairstylist, be the best hairstylist in East St. Louis or Chicago or wherever it is you live. If you're going to be a trash collector, be the best trash collector the world's ever seen. If you're going to do whatever you do, be the best at it. You don't have to be an entrepreneur. You can be, if you're going to run a church, then be the best church leader in your town, your community, and have a Facebook account, an Instagram account, have a marketing plan, get testimonials from your parishioners on how you've changed their life and how you've given them counseling, and have them refer somebody to your church. You see, I just want a nation of builders. That's what I want. That's what I want. I want a nation of leaders and builders. I don't really care what you're building. I want you to build something, and you need to do that with an understanding of who you are, what your identity is, what your purpose is in this life. If you want to save kids on the south side of Chicago, introduce them to their identity project. I'm going to do a whole video on that. If any kid who has an identity project will set themselves free and will be a part of new opportunity. That's what saved me in Compton, California, South Central LA. Thanks to my mother, Juanita Smith, my sister, Mara Hoskins, my brother, Donnie Smith, and that banker who was Caucasian, walked in my classroom, taught me financial literacy. My dad, Johnny Smith, who gave me a sense of yes, I am. My mother, Juanita Smith, who told me my mother told me yes, I am. My daddy told me yes, I can. I had a sense of identity, self-esteem, purpose, role modeling, and I had an identity. That saved me in Compton. Any kids you love, show them their identity project, you'll set them free, and they will walk all through this drama and crime and drugs and distractions in their life. I walk through my life consciously oblivious of most things around me because I'm focused on not just my identity, but my purpose. What is your purpose? What are you about? Is it just living to pay your bills? Is it living to irritate somebody? Are you living through somebody else? Are you living to be negative? I mean, nobody wants to hang around you if you're negative. What are you doing with your life? What are you doing? Are you living with something larger and more important to yourself? Because when you get to the pearly gates, I think God's going to ask you two questions. What did you do for the least of these, my children? And what did you do to sustain my small planet? I don't know about you, but I want to be able to answer at least one of those questions. We don't know how long we're going to live, but we damn sure know we're going to die. Make sure you die for something larger and more important than yourself, and people will celebrate your living on this earth. I love you much. This is John Hope Bryan coming to you from New York City. Unbossed, unbiased, coming to you straight at no chaser with the civil rights movement. From civil rights to civil rights, moving in the suites, not the streets. And after all that talking, I need a glass of water. This is just water, people. Go to operationhope.org. Sign up to be a Hope Corps member, a volunteer. Sign up to become a member, $25 a year. You can do that. Become a member of Operation Hope. Join our movement. I'm the first investor, first member, so I'm not asking you to do what I didn't do. If you want a job, we're expanding Hope Inside locations across the country and Hope Business Box Academies. You can apply at operationhope.org if you want to work for the movement. Tell a friend, like the page at johnhopebryant.com and Hope Global Forums. That's also on Facebook. And I'll see you in a city near you. All right. Love you very much. Thanks for believing. Peace out.